Hey guys, this is Jack with Cosmic Road, talking to you about the MOSUL orb. That's been making the rounds recently. Everybody's talking about the MOSUL orb released by Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. It's been making the rounds for the last couple of days, and it is huge news. It's the first confirmed legit UFO still that we have had released for a little while. And I want to dive into not just that orb, but the whole phenomenon of the metallic spheres that people have been seeing so much of in the last few years. So let me just read the official announcement. Oh, and please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and please comment in the chat. Let me know what you're thinking about all this. Okay, so this is from the weaponizedpodcast.com. This is George Knapp's and Jeremy Corbell's own website. The MOSUL orb, investigative journalists Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp obtained and are revealing for the first time a U.S. military filmed UFO from an active conflict zone. This UAP has been officially designated by the U.S. government and intelligence agencies as a UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomenon, and is currently part of the active United States UAP investigations, now under the DoD's ARROW, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. You can hear and see more about this case on their video. It was taken on April 16th, 2016. This image and footage was taken over the city of Mosul in northern Iraq. The video is only 4 seconds long. The UAP is seen moving with purpose in a lateral direction across the video, south to north. The orb UAP is visible for approximately 1 second as it moves through the frame. And some people are saying, well, why even bother releasing the video if it's only 4 seconds long and if the UAP only is in frame for 1 second? Well, the still that we have, my response to that is the still that we have is 1 frame. But the traditionally a 1 second is 24 frames of footage. Now that may be different if they're using video with a higher frame rate. It may even be more frames than that. But we would at least get 24 additional frames, and we could analyze its movement from that. So it would give us a lot more, at least 24 times as much stuff to go on if they released that video. I haven't heard whether George and Jeremy have actually seen the video yet. They have released the still, they have access to the still and other material, but I don't know if they've actually seen the video. Let's see, it was a full motion video. FMV blends electro-optical and infrared and other video-based motion image sensors into a comprehensive intelligence synthesis with a geospatially aware video data. The reconnaissance craft was an MC-12, a medium to low altitude twin engine turboprop aircraft. Its primary mission is providing intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance support directly to ground forces. Again, this is a war zone. Initial analysis hub, DGS-1, distributed ground system number 1, Langley, Virginia. The distributed ground center at Langley, Eustis, focuses on imagery intelligence and electronic signals intelligence and primarily supports U.S. Central Command. DGS-1 sift and disseminate the ISR sensor data flowing into Joint Base Langley, Eustis, headquarters of the 480th Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Wing. This is a quote from Jeremy Corbell. For the first time, we are releasing a military filmed image of a UAP over an active conflict zone. This is an entirely different scenario to the East and West Coast incursions over training ranges. Excuse me. Allergies are driving me crazy lately. UAP pose significant risk to our servicemen and women, and the case highlights this and is unfortunately not unique. Origin capability and operator and intent has not been determined in relation to this intelligently controlled UFO over Mosul, Iraq. At a minimum, UAP pose a fundamental intelligence and combat identification problem that must be addressed. Okay, now there's a little bit to unpack here. A couple of very interesting things. He says UAP pose a significant risk to our servicemen and women. That is really interesting because it is completely at odds with the UAP report that was just released by Sean Kirkpatrick from Arrow. And Sean goes out of his way in that report to say there are no medical consequences from UAP. There's no collisions, there's no health effects, nothing to see here. Well, Preston Dennett did an excellent video a few weeks ago, compiling a list of a dozen or 20 cases where UFOs have actually collided with various human vehicles, from planes, trains, to automobiles. Believe it or not. Yeah, they've actually hit a train, which is kind of hilarious. And it reminds me of the Missing 411, the UFO connection that David Paulides just released, where there is a specific incident where a small UFO is abducting an elk, and it blunders into a tree on its way out. So these things are, they're clumsy, or they can be clumsy. I think they're also enormously agile and powerful, but they are not perfect. The pilots of these things, the operators of these things are not infallible. They are not gods. So I think that's important to keep in mind. It's also important to keep in mind what Jeremy is saying, that they pose a significant risk to our servicemen and women. Is he just talking about collisions? Is he talking about misidentifying something as a enemy or as a UAP? In other words, not knowing exactly what is going on in the battlefield because of these objects, and that could cause a problem. Is he talking about abductions? What exactly is he talking about? So again, I don't want to push a threat narrative because people jump on people that do that. And as a whole, I see a lot of positive in the phenomenon, but you can't turn a blind eye to the negative as well. The Colares case, for example, where the aliens were, lasering people or whatever they were doing and giving people anemia and all sorts of health effects. There have been negative effects and health effects from these incidents, which is why it's so alarming to see Sean Kirkpatrick lie in the UAP report to Congress, at least the unclassified or declassified version of that. That does not bode well, in my mind, for Arrow. That really doesn't. It's hard to see that in a positive way. I kind of want to think that, maybe they just need to get their stuff together. They need to set up their tables. They need to put the potted plant on the desk. They need to organize their file cabinets. They need to establish their office and then kind of, let this information matriculate out to Congress and, kind of get a game plan before they start releasing stuff. So I can kind of get that idea. However, where I have a problem with that theory is that he makes it a blanket statement. Yeah, other people have suggested, well, Sean, he was saying that only in the incidents that we've looked at have we seen that there's no collisions or no health effects. Well, but he doesn't say that. The report does not say that. It makes it a blanket statement. We have never seen, or there has never been a collision. There has never been a negative health effect. I mean, it's just a blanket statement. He's not saying, well, in the cases that we looked at, there's no health effects. So yeah, I have serious issues with Sean Kirkpatrick. I am not impressed so far. So hopefully he will prove me wrong, and he will not turn out to be as bad as Bray and Moultrie, but I fear the worst. So yeah. And Jeremy also says in this quote, they pose a significant risk to our servicemen and women. And this case highlights this. This is not, unfortunately, unique. This is unfortunately not unique. So he's saying that these craft popping up in a war zone are unfortunate, and they pose a significant risk to our servicemen and women. I would love some more detail on that. Why is he saying they're a risk? What's, you know, what exactly is the risk there? The background on May 1st, 2020. And by the way, if you're just joining us, this is Jack with Cosmic Row talking about the MOSUL orb and in general, just kind of metallic orbs and spheres that people have been seeing so much and even videoing a lot recently. I released a compilation video yesterday of a bunch of metallic spheres that people have been seeing. And I may do another one tomorrow just because there's so many and they're all coming up now because of the MOSUL orb. And I think it's important to highlight how common these things are. Now, these are one of the most common, if not the most common, form of UFO. And I want to get into that in just a minute. First, I want to finish this thing from Jeremy. On May 1st, 2020, a classified briefing was generated about the U.F.O. U.A.P. presence via the Office of Naval Intelligence. This U.A.P. briefing is a build-on to a previous ONI briefing generated on October 18th, 2019. Both were distributed across a wide range of intelligence networking platforms. The U.A.P. intelligence briefing was most recently uploaded and distributed on November 4th, 2021. The MOSUL orb UFO video is included in the above-mentioned U.A.P. educational audio-visual presentation. This briefing was generated and populated across intelligence platforms to educate United States Armed Forces and the intelligence community on the nature and presentation of the U.A.P. UFO phenomenon. Those familiar with the creation of the briefing state that the aim is to destigmatize the U.A.P. problem, that'd be nice, and to promote more intelligence collection regarding U.A.P. incursions and encounters with active military deployments. Although the MOSUL orb footage is contained within a classified briefing, the image itself remains unclassified. And I think that's a critical point. So, let me go back to the chat and see how you guys are doing. Raz says somebody drops a big yoga ball from the sky and everyone goes mad. Yeah. Well, it could be. Or as Mick West says, a puddle. It's a puddle. It's a seagull. It's a puddle. Maybe it's a seagull in a puddle. I don't know. John Greenwald was speaking well of Corbell's track record. I'm 50-50 on Corbell. El Drum says the dude oversells everything. Well, he does hype himself a lot and his material a lot, but that's kind of how you have to do it. I mean, he wants to drum up attention for this stuff, and I don't fault him for that. Jack, you have to check out the Australian UFO report from the 70s. Okay, yeah, I've been looking through some of the Australian material. It's interesting, but I'll be really impressed when they come out with the crash retrieval information. As we, because I almost did a video on the Australian UFO dump because it is interesting and it is newsworthy, but I don't think they're being honest. Ross Coulthart did a video, and I think he talks in his book about UFO crash retrievals in Australia and from Australia. And, it's fascinating. And I've talked about that before, how there was a U.S. team out of Long Beach, California, based out of some aeronautics company and our aerospace company. And they went into Australia to perform a crash retrieval. Whereas from Australia, an Australian UFO team, crash retrieval team, left Australia to go outside of Australia to retrieve a downed UFO. So why was the Australian UFO team not retrieving its own craft or, the craft that was down in Australia? Why did a U.S. team have to go in there to retrieve that downed craft? I think that is fascinating, and I hope Ross Coulthart expounds on that. But yeah, that's why I wasn't impressed by the Australian UFO dump, is because they're not going into the real stuff. They're giving us some surface level stuff, some sightings, yada, 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 but they're not giving us the juicy stuff, the real stuff. So unless I'm wrong on that, if I have missed that, if they do go into crash retrievals in the Australian UFO dump, because it is a large dump. Please direct me to it, and you correct me if I ever get anything wrong. I want to know what is really going on. Super Crazy says, hello, Jack and everyone. Eldrum says, hey there. Let's get to disclosure first. Yeah, disclosure would be great. Okay, so the briefing overview of the MOSUL orb. This intelligence briefing was generated to educate personnel on the U.F.O. U.A.P. issue. The intelligence briefing was generated to destigmatize and promote more intel collection regarding the U.A.P. issue. The intelligence briefing contains numerous recent U.A.P. cases with photo and video evidence to illustrate elements of the U.A.P. issue. The intelligence briefing contains an estimated 10 videos, FLIR and HUD, and about 10 to 12 photos documenting some of these UAPs. Oh man, to be a fly on the wall in that intelligence briefing, it included 10 videos, not one still from a 4-second video, 10 full videos, and an additional 10 to 12 photos. Man, wouldn't that be juicy? If you're just joining us, this is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, and hit the bell. And please consider donating or supporting the channel with the super thanks feature below. So or the super chat. That'd be awesome. So that'd be really appreciated. So the summary is, what's presented here is genuine UFO UAP footage, evidence with impressive provenance and circumstance. This image is the tip of the iceberg of what has been accumulated via visual data by the U.S. Armed Services and intelligence community. Well, exactly. It is just the tip of the iceberg. So where's the rest of it? Why do we get one still? And why does it have to come through us by indirect means? Isn't that what Sean Kirkpatrick is supposed to be doing? I mean, what the hell, dude? Yeah, what the hell? I mean, okay, you don't want to talk about alien abductions. Sure. I understand not opening the full can of worms, but at least you could release a 4-second video or some more stills and not give us the disinfo that there's no health effects associated with UAP contact. There's no collisions, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm really unimpressed by Sean Kirkpatrick. Not just unimpressed, but I'm discouraged by Arrow in general. I lean more toward the Tim Burchett, Representative Burchett way of thinking. He openly said it's a cover-up. He said members of Congress had been compromised, and it was a cover-up. To continue with the summary from Jeremy Corbell, we hope that this and other soon-to-be-released materials, I can't wait for that, will be representative of a unique moment in modern history, a turning point towards the rational and transparent approach of investigating and exploring the mystery of the UFO phenomenon, reducing stigma and encouraging transparency on this enigmatic puzzle. And this is a quote from him. No matter where UFOs are from, it is now openly admitted by our Department of Defense that they are appearing with an increased frequency worldwide. But are they? Are they appearing more now than they ever have? I don't think that Jeremy can really make that statement, that blanket statement, because we didn't have the sensor data 400 years ago or 1,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago. We didn't have all this stuff to see whether they were coming and going. So I do take issue with that a little bit. However, they might be able to tell from the time that we've had these sensors, say 10 years ago, since the time of the Nimitz, that's when they were starting to unroll the new technology, that it would be interesting to know if they have seen an uptick since then. So he could be right, but I haven't seen the evidence for that. He says it's time to acknowledge the UFO problem, and I am hopeful that Arrow and its stakeholders will dedicate robust resources to this enduring mystery on behalf of the American and global public. Yeah, from your lips to God's ears, Jeremy. Yeah, so I've linked to this page in the description, so go check that out on the Weaponized podcast. And Let's see. Yeah, the Australian. Does anybody have any information about the Australian stuff? You're watching Jack with Cosmic Road. Get in here. Yeah, that's right. Get in here. It's fascinating. Well, it is. It's fascinating. Matteo Fromers Ciao from Italy. I'm really curious about this orb. It will release the 4-second video from that. Man, that'd be great. Hey, Matteo, since you're from Italy, do you have any information on that helicopter incident where the UFO UAP was had shot down a helicopter? Apparently, the helicopter was checking on forest fires potentially started by UFOs a few years ago, and the UFOs didn't appreciate that and shot a laser beam at the helicopter and caused it to crash. I don't think anybody was killed, fortunately, but I would love more information on that. Why were they starting fires? Do you have any insight into that? Any local rumors or people that have been abducted locally that the aliens have given them the juicy dirt on? Hey, this is why we did it. Um, I'd love some more details on that. Why were they starting forest fires? How does that make sense? It's fascinating. It is. Super crazy movie geek. Does Kirkpatrick have the power to declassify the videos himself? I don't know. That's a good question. That's a good question. I would imagine that if he wanted it declassified, he could get it declassified. It might have to go through a panel or some authority to have that done. But I'm sure that he could do it if he wanted to. He doesn't want to. Eldrum says, good question. I think everything stays under Congress's secret. Yeah, and another thing that again, Kirkpatrick openly lied in the UAP report, so it's not like he's not releasing stuff because it's hasn't been approved for release. He openly lied in the UAP report, saying there's no health effects. Well, of course there's health effects. I mean, even if you don't want to go with the negative, immunoproblems and cancer of Skinwalker Ranch, because I'm willing to concede that it may or may not be an isolated case or an isolated set of cases. There's many other health effects that people have gotten cancers and radiation burns from these things, as well as the countless unwanted pregnancies that they don't want to talk about. And that's probably one of the big reasons they don't want to go into this. They don't want to open that can of worms because that can of worms leads straight to alien abductions and their complicity in alien abductions. They have been allowing this stuff to go on for 70 years. By many, many accounts, they have been aiding and abetting the beings in the abduction process. Does that mean they are allies of the beings? Are they doing this for some technology exchange? Is that how we got the ARVs, the human UFOs? I don't know. I don't know. Greenwald has foiled it. What is he foiled? The Italy stuff or the Australian stuff? Super crazy movie geek says, yeah, does he have the power? Eldrum says, good question. I think everything stays under Congress's secret. He also says the declassified reports is the way they interact with the public. Yeah, it is. And actually, Jeremy and George talked in their show about the classified report because they got to see what was in the classified report. And in the classified report, they openly talk about, for example, the pyramid incident when they were flying over, I want to say the Omaha, but I can't remember if that was that incident or a different incident, where the pyramids were swarming the warships. And in the classified version of the report, they used the word pyramid. They confirmed that these things were pyramids. Bray and Moultrie tried to say it's not a pyramid. It's not even a seagull. It's not even a seagull. It's a lens artifact. Whatever they call it, the bouquet effect. So Bray and Moultrie are huge liars. The classified version of the report, and they had access to all that data. Come on. And their chief scientists said it wasn't a bouquet effect. They said it was a bouquet effect. Who told them to say that? Whose narrative are they running with? Is it just elements within the government that is trying to suppress this stuff because they don't want the public to panic? Do they just not want to reveal their own complicity? Is it because they are, in bed with the aliens and or the beings and so there's so many reasons why they could be lying, and it's hard to tell whose power Bray and Moultrie and Kirkpatrick are under. Are they controlled by the control group? You know, have the men in black put a dead horse head in their bed? I don't know. I don't know. Eldrum says that's the link. Mateo says, no, not really. I guess he's talking about Italy. But I suggest to check the fact about Coronia, a place here in south of Italy. Wheels several strange fact happens, and our government investigates about it. Okay, so I've got to investigate Coronia, Italy. Apparently, that's a hot activity place where some stuff has gone down. Yeah, I want to know. Is that related to the forest fires, Mateo? Yeah, if you know, let me know because I'm really fascinated by that case. Yeah, it's fascinating. Come on, that's fascinating. UFOs starting forest fires, and then when a helicopter goes to intervene or investigate, it gets shot down. How is that not fascinating? I mean, geez. Oh, and yeah, this is Jack with Cosmic Road. Get in here, please hit like, please subscribe, and hit the bell. If you want to support Cosmic Road and the work I'm doing here, please consider leaving a super chat. That would be awesome. I would love that. Yeah. Let's see. Eldrum says it won't display the link. You have to look at the real-time chat. Yeah, you can drop a link in the comments below. I don't know if you can do that now. You may have to wait until the live stream ends. But please, if you remember, drop that link. I would love to see that. Eldrum says cool will look. Shogun Orda says, but how many cameras have triangle shaped lens apertures? Yeah, exactly. Right. But, again, in the classified version of the U.A.P report that Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp have seen, they weren't there during the briefing, but they actually saw the report or parts of the report. And in that version, the report openly says pyramid. It says these objects over the U.S. warships were pyramids. They weren't bouquet effects. It doesn't, yeah. So, I mean, the government knows they're pyramids, and yet the government is openly lying to us, just like they're lying about collisions and health effects. So the government, as much as we would love the arrow to be the thing that actually finally gets the truth out to the people, and I'm still hopeful that they will be more forthcoming than other government programs. And there's a lot of involvement from people like Chris Mellon that hopefully will keep them honest or make them more honest. But at the moment, I am really discouraged by Arrow and by Sean Kirkpatrick. I think he's a phony. He's a shill for the control group or whoever the hell is covering this stuff up. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at Coronia. Let's see. Super Crazy Movie Geek says in bed, literally. Oh, L Drums, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I got left a super chat. All right, that's awesome. Helps keep the show going. So yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it really is fascinating. Yeah, to get to your point, L Crazy or the Super Crazy Movie Geek in bed, literally. Well, I mean, there are so many cases where abductees and contactees have literally slept with the beings. I mean, that is a thing that happens. I mean, they don't. I mean, I don't know what the stats are on that because when they are creating hybrids, when they are collecting the genetic tissue, it seems like they usually do it in a more clinical fashion. They don't have much fun doing it. But sometimes they do seem to have some fun doing it and allow the other people to have fun, the abductees and contactees. So I don't know. But yeah, there does seem to be some hanky panky going on in the world of the alien from time to time. So who knows? Now, I did want to read one thing to you. This is from a Twitter thread by Joe Murgia. And check that out. I left a link to it in the description. This is talking about some research and speculation by Jacques Vallée and John Keel, two of my favorite voices on the subject. I love those guys. I love their thoughts and how they think outside of the box and really have some amazing insights into all this. And so I'm just going to read this Twitter thread. It's like, like 8 threads long, 9, actually it's 10 threads long, or 10 tweets long. So from Keel, this is John Keel, from his book OTH, which is Operation Trojan Horse. This is a quote. This is a quote from him. He says, in his passport to Magonia, Dr. Jacques Vallée, so this is John Keel talking about Jacques Vallée, in his passport to Magonia, Dr. Jacques Vallée, a NASA astronomer and computer expert, touches on all of this. In the Soviet Union, not so long ago, a leading plasma physicist died in a strange circumstances, Dr. Vallée states. This may be a subject for a future video. Honestly, I don't want to stray too much from the metallic spheres, because this is really interesting. It gets into the aliens controlling people and to committing murder, which I think is super fascinating. And it goes along with the whole control group and being in bed with aliens, which is what made me think about it. But let me stay on the topic of the metallic spheres for another moment, because I do have some more insights into that, or some more thoughts on that. So the Chris Lato, if you know Chris Lato, former military guy, now a highly respected ufologist. Well, he has some interesting information on the Ukraine UFOs, UAPs. Some are calling them cosmics and phantoms. I think that is the Astronomical Society in Ukraine, what they call them. And if they are dark and black and seem to suck up all light, they are the phantoms. And if they are light and luminous, they are the cosmics. Well, they are spherical in shape. And there's even that recent a video of the Russians shooting one of these things down potentially. So that is interesting that they can be shot down. So are those the same things as the metallic spheres? Because Chris Lato says in one of his recent videos that the people that he's in touch with in Ukraine, I assume the Astronomical Society, they think that the cosmics and the phantoms may be the same things. That if they're above the troposphere, which is the lower Earth atmosphere, if they are above that, they present as one way, as either a cosmic or a phantom. Forgive me, I forget which one. And if they're below the troposphere, that same object will appear as the reverse. If it was a cosmic above the troposphere, it will appear as a phantom below or within the troposphere. So they seem like those things might be the same craft, and they are spherical objects. Now, the metallic spheres that people keep on seeing, are those the same things? Is that the same thing? Just with the switch turned on or off? Because, that would make perfect sense, right? So why are they presenting themselves differently in the Ukraine and other places? Why do they seem to be metallic in some places, like in the MOSUL video or still, and they appear as shining objects in other places and as dark black holes in others? Because these are spherical objects. They roughly are all reported about the same size. So, are they the same? Okay, and there's also some other interesting correlations, other interesting objects. I wanted to go over this real quick. The orb in Puerto Rico, I think that was released by the Homeland Security or leaked from Homeland Security. I forget exactly how we arrived at that video, but it has been confirmed. And it's like a 2 or 3 minute long video where you see the orb, the craft, the spherical craft, skimming low over the ground. It goes into the sea, and then it pops back out of the sea and it splits into two. What the hell is that thing? How is it splitting into two? How does that thing make any sense? And if an object has the capability of splitting into two, why could it not? Why could a similar object not avoid a Russian rocket? The capabilities of these things are amazing. I shared a video with you yesterday, a compilation video of objects similar to the MOSUL orb. And one of those, it shows a typical spherical metallic craft, and there is a very tiny craft maneuvering nearby it, and it is buzzing around this aircraft, this man-made aircraft. It's just flicking in and out super fast, like a fly, just amazingly, like faster than a fly. It's just crazy how it maneuvers. I mean, now that was not one of the spheres. Maybe the spheres don't have that maneuverability, and that's why it was not able to, avoid the Russian missile. If indeed the Russian missile was actually shooting down one of these objects. There apparently are multiple videos and witnesses, and people have analyzed this stuff. Chris Lato has analyzed this stuff, and I really value his analysis. And from his analysis, this wasn't a seagull. This wasn't, this does appear to have been a genuine U.A.P. So how did it get shot down by a Russian missile? But you see this time and again. The Lance Corporal Weigand, the case in Brazil, where I've talked about him a lot, but in that particular case, he believed that the U.F.O. that he was sent to secure the crash site of, without knowing it was a UFO. And once he got there and realized it was a UFO, he went inside it, interacted with the being, and then the Air Force showed up, and it was their purview to actually secure the site of an actual UFO, because they were working with the control group or whoever the hell was doing the crash retrievals in Brazil, and he was arrested and taken to their base of operations. Well, when he was examining the UFO, it looked to him like there was a missile strike on the UFO. And I have seen this many times. There's another really good case with a really credible military jet pilot witness where he says he shot down a UFO. So, I mean, how do these fantastic craft continually get shot down by mundane weapons that we apes can employ? Missiles, even potentially bullets. How does that happen? I mean, I don't get it. But I do have a possible explanation that I got from an experiencer, and I'll just share this with you, and you can make what you will of it. And they say there are two force fields that can be activated around these craft. And the first one, the smallest one nearest the craft, if that's only engaged, if only that is engaged, they are vulnerable to weapons. If the second force fielding is engaged, that gives them much greater maneuverability. They use that to go outside of the atmosphere. With that, they can twist space and time and do all sorts of amazing stuff. And when that's engaged, they're indestructible. Nothing can get them. But just maneuvering around the atmosphere, that second force field is generally not engaged. Usually it's just the first one, which leaves them vulnerable. So if that experiencer is correct, then that explains why they continually get shot down. However, it raises some serious questions. So Philip Colonel J. Corso, in his book, The Day After Roswell, talks a lot about, I mean, the whole point of the book, I mean, it opens with, hey, we're at war with aliens, guys. Here's how we got there, and here's how we learned to fight back. And that's the whole setup for the book. And it's an amazing book, The Day After Roswell. I encourage everybody to check it out. It is foundational in UFO literature. However, was he full of BS? Was he full of BS? And I say that very respectfully. And I don't think he was. I don't think he was. I love that book, and I highly recommend it. I think Colonel Philip J. Corso is a truth teller. I have heard that his original notes and his are actually better than the book itself, more accurate, that the ghostwriter or the co-writer that he worked with took some liberties in translating his original notes. So I have not read those original notes, but I do intend to do that But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is in the book, The Day After Roswell, he talks about how we got these crashes, like from Roswell, and we got the material and we reverse engineered this alien technology to ultimately in the 70s develop energy weapons that could then be used to fire at UFOs. He doesn't go into any detail about that. I mean, the whole book is set up with that hook. We're at war. Here's how we got there. But the whole book is about how we got there. And just at the very end, it says, oh, by the way, yeah, we did learn how to do this. And we actually shot one down in the 70s using an energy weapon. Thanks for reading. But it is a fascinating book about reverse engineering alien technology, how they were able to do this, and the massive implications that it has had on the world, i.e., the computer revolution, changing our world. All of that came from this material, this Roswell craft, as well as other craft. So if we can shoot them down with missiles and bullets, if those accounts are credible, if the video that just came out the other day with Russia shooting a missile at one of these spheres, if those are, if those really happened, why did we need to develop energy weapons? Because you hear that again and again. There are numerous accounts of energy weapons being used against UFOs and U.A.P. Now, maybe, I mean, I can try to rationalize that by saying maybe we are using the energy weapons against the ones that have the second force field engaged. I mean, that makes sense, right? We use bullets and missiles for, in general, but we use energy weapons when they have that second force field engaged. Does that make sense? I don't know. Shogun Orta says they might get shot down because it's like flies. 90% of the time they can dodge you easily, but 10%, well, SWAT. Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. There's so many of these objects. The UAPs, the UFOs, they're just all over the place. Oh, yeah. And by the way, this is Jack with Cosmic Road. If you're just joining me in the live stream and joining us in the live stream, please hit like, please subscribe, and hit the bell. That'd be awesome. If you want to support Cosmic Road, please consider leaving a super chat, things like that. Keep the channel going, and I really appreciate it. So I had a couple other things. So there was a orb, a metallic spherical object that went into the water off of the bow or near a U.S. warship, and that was one of the videos that Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp released last year of this orb-like object going into the water. It just kind of hovers on the water for a little bit, and then it just kind of slowly sinks under. And it's been confirmed by the Pentagon as a legit UAP. It's a great video in that regard, and you get to see the transmedium capabilities of these things, just like the one in Puerto Rico, where it goes into the water and then comes up and splits into two. So to me, that looks like the same sort of object as the MOSUL orb. And I'm going through all these cases trying to paint a picture of this, that possibly these are all the same vehicle or the same types of vehicle. Maybe there's different sizes and some are luminous and some are black. But generally, we're seeing very, very similar craft, these spherical metallic craft that can appear as just simply shining balls of light or darkness, if indeed they are the same, and they may not be. The cosmics and the phantom, they could just be balls of energy, totally possible. And even the metallic spheres, we would call them metallic spheres, but they may not be metallic at all. They could be something completely different. It's totally possible. What are they made of? Who is flying them? Are they drones? Are they alien drones? Because they're usually fairly small. But then again, a lot of the beings are pretty small, 30 or 40 feet tall. So perfect size for one or two little guys to get in there. Also, it's good to keep in mind that many experiencers, um, when they go into the craft, people like Terry Lovelace see that they are much bigger on the inside than they are on the outside. Just like in Doctor Who, Terry Lovelace said the craft that he was in, from the outside, it was about as big as a Walmart. But once you got into it, it was bigger than a giant football stadium, the stands and everything included. So these things can be in space and time, and physics don't mean the same thing to them as it does to us. So these metallic spheres are very small. They don't seem to be much more than 10 feet across. There may be some bigger ones, but they're not very big. And but who knows how big they are on the inside? They could be this, who knows? They could be infinitely large on the inside. Um, let's see. Anthony K says if one can communicate with the beings via Reiki healing telepathy, then one would think the beings would see an attack coming by us well in advance, right? Yeah, well, let's see. Let me dissect that a little bit. If one can communicate with the beings via Reiki healing telepathy, well, yeah, absolutely. You can communicate with these beings through Reiki. Reiki is a hands-on healing modality that I practice, that I've learned. I'm a Reiki master now, and it's a really cool thing. And you're wielding the force. I mean, it's so cool. It's amazing. It's really badass, and you can actually use it to heal people. My Reiki instructor has cured terminal cancer with Reiki. It's just fantastic. And one of the things that happens during these Reiki sessions, when you're channeling this sacred divine energy from a higher plane of existence, sometimes you will interact with what we call the Reiki beings. Some people think they are Arcturians, some think they're the Palladians, but some people actually see them. I've never seen them. I've never seen one of the Reiki beings. I've been present multiple times when they've been there. Other people have seen them, but I guess my third eye isn't open wide enough or something. And I don't know. I'm trying to think in the positive. If you think in the negative, then you reinforce that. So I don't want to say that my third eye isn't open wide enough. But for whatever unexplained reason, I have not seen them, but others have, and people have seen the same thing. They didn't know, like in the Skywatch our first MUFON UFO Skywatch that we had, the Reiki beings came down. My Reiki instructor kicked off our CE5. I was leading the CE5, but the human initiated contact with the UFOs, and I asked her to inaugurate it and to kick it off so that we would only interact with good beings. And she did this really cool thing where she invited only the beings of the highest vibration to come down. She swirled our energies and she made this connection. It was super cool. And we sat there meditating for about 20 minutes. And during that meditation, people were having these fantastic experiences, these extra dimensional experiences. They were like out of their bodies and interacting with these beings of light, blue, which is really interesting, and green. Let me take a sip of water. Anyway, nobody was aware of each other's experiences. But afterwards, when I was gathering their accounts, because I thought it was a bust, because it was a cloudy day, nothing happened to me. I didn't experience anything. But my friend was telling my Reiki instructor all about what he experienced, and she's nodding. Yep, I saw it all. Yep, that's right. You experienced this, you experienced that. That's what happened. And he was like, "Oh my God, you saw it. You're aware." Yep, I'm aware. I was watching. And so I was gathering accounts from other people who were excitedly talking by themselves and unaware of what my friend was saying. And I was gathering their accounts one by one, and they all corroborated each other. They all were seeing the same thing or pieces of the same thing. And they were interacting with the Reiki beings, uh, which is amazing. I mean, that's what my Reiki instructor said. She invited the beings of the highest vibration to come down. It makes sense that the beings that she's used to interacting with, because she has dealt with them a lot, were the ones to come down and interact with us. So it's perfectly logical. It makes sense. I feel a little gypped that I didn't get to see them. That would have been cool. I would have loved to have done that. Hopefully, I will get to meet the Reiki beings someday, whether they're Arcturians or Pleiadians or whatever they are. I'd love to hang out and chat with Reiki beings. So anyway, long yeah, sidetrack there, but yeah, so you can actually absolutely connect with higher beings through Reiki, higher non-human beings. And could they tell you something that would happen in the future? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know of anybody that's really had a conversation with them. So, but I'm sure people have. Maybe my Reiki instructor has. Maybe I haven't just asked her the right question. But yeah, Anthony had asked if one can communicate with the beings via Reiki healing telepathy, then one would think the beings would see an attack coming by us well in advance, right? Yeah, yeah. Would beings see us? Well, I mean, I guess it depends on which beings, right? Because I don't think this is a monolithic. I don't think the phenomenon is monolithic. I think we're dealing with a whole bunch of different separate phenomena, all wrapped up in one big umbrella that we call the phenomenon, or sometimes I call it the greater phenomenon. With the UFO phenomenon being one small subset of this overall greater phenomenon. But some of these beings are coming from higher dimensions, other planes of existence. Some may be coming from the future. Some may be coming from the past. Some may have already been here. There are some that are probably not too much further on the technological spectrum than us, that maybe we could surprise with a missile or a bullet or an energy weapon. I mean, according to all the reports where these things get shot down, I have to conclude that they are possible to surprise and to shoot down. People that have connected psychically with beings, like I'm thinking of the Roswell craft. There have been a couple of people that have remote viewed that incident and that were able to connect psychically with the dying beings in the crash. They were, had been involved in the wreck or the whatever it was, and they were waiting to die, and they were full of fear. They did not seem like they were beings that were willingly donating their ships, because that's one theory, is that the beings are gifting us these things. Well, if so, those guys didn't know about it. Maybe their superior sent them to die, but those guys didn't know about it. So anyway, do they see them during Reiki sessions? Yeah, like I was saying, yeah, absolutely. The Reiki beings can be seen during Reiki sessions. And I've been to multiple Reiki sessions. We're doing Reiki shares and practicing Reiki on each other, where the Reiki beings have come through and they will help heal a particular individual. And it's really interesting that there seem to be at least two different categories of Reiki beings. There's what my Reiki instructor calls the Reiki healers, who are very warm and friendly, and they'll interact with you. And, I think those are probably the ones that were interacting with people during the Skywatch. And there are the doctors. She differentiates between doctors and healers. And the doctors are there to get a job done. They go down and they'll heal people, and they're not friendly. They're not going to stop to chat. They will just, circle the person that needs help, and they will put forth their mojo and heal them. So, but yeah, so there do seem to be two different kinds of Reiki beings. Just wanted to tell you that. Yeah. So, does anybody have any questions? Imagine them being potassium. Okay. They could be, could totally be potassium. By the way, if you're just joining us, this is Jack with Cosmic Road discussing the MOSUL orb and these metallic spherical objects in general that people keep seeing, because they are a very common type of UFO. One of, if not the most commonly reported types of UFO and U.A.P. And people have been sharing their videos of these things. And I made a compilation video yesterday. I might make another one for tomorrow, showcasing just how common these guys are. I mean, they are all over the place. Of course, a skeptic could say they're also probably the easiest to fake. And, that's true too. That's true too. I'm only going to share the ones with you that I think are the most legit. So But yeah, there are some fakes out there, and I have been taken by fakes. It is totally possible to get hooked by a fake. I try to be more discerning with my UFO videos these days. But yeah, let's see. There was one other point. Yeah, it was yeah, another similar craft that this is that the MOSUL orb seems to be similar to is the Chilean UFO slash UAP that expelled that plume of gas. If you haven't seen that, go check that out after you see this video. Yeah, in Chile, I think it was the Homeland Security that released that footage. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, or was it the Chilean military? Whatever it was, or police, because there was one that was released by the police of this craft, this spherical craft expelling a plume of gas. It didn't seem to be, a contrail. It wasn't using this to power itself along, to motor along. It was deliberately expelling this weird, thick vapor. And why? Why was it expelling this weird vapor? What was it doing? Did it have an engine fire? Do these things have engine fires? Was it deliberately pumping something into our atmosphere to help with our atmosphere? Many people think the UFOs and UAPs are here to help with the planet. Totally could be. Totally could be. They certainly talk about the environment a lot. Of course, I released a video yesterday saying that could be disinformation. They could be brainwashing people into thinking they care about the environment when really they don't. But that is coming from one source, but there are countless sources talking about how they do care about the environment. So I don't want to look at one outlier and think that is the real deal. And but yeah, so is that Chilean UFO video or that Chilean UFO rather, that metallic sphere, is that the same kind of thing seen in Mosul and all these other cases? Is that the same thing that split into two in Puerto Rico, that disappeared in the water off the bow of a U.S. warship? What are these things? And yeah, so Open Left says, "Welcome to level one." Oh, yeah, hey, thank you for joining and becoming a member. I appreciate that. I make exclusive videos for level two members. I'm sorry, but thank you very much for supporting the channel. That's awesome. I hope in the future to get some exclusive emojis for you guys for channel members. I don't know how to make an emoji. Anybody have any tips on how to make an emoji? Because I want to make becoming a channel member special for you guys. And that's one way to do it. But I have like zero technical ability. I'm at the limit of my technical ability doing a live stream, but I do want to do that for you guys. Let's see. Shogun Orta said, yeah. They do see beings during Reiki sessions. I wish I understood them. I've asked my Reiki instructor numerous times about the Reiki beings. I have a friend that he's also a Reiki master, and his third eye is open. He sees lots of stuff. He thinks that they are Arcturian, which are little blue guys. That is how they are commonly depicted. And when they are seen during Reiki sessions, they're kind of more like beings of light. It's hard to get like a fix on exactly what they look like. But yeah, they do seem to be little. I mean, the Arcturians, as commonly reported by people who interact with them, are little blue guys that I think are from the fifth dimension. Or maybe that's the fourth density, depending on how you look at it. I've gone through numerous phases looking at how I see the bigger pictures, sort of thing, the dimensions and the levels and the densities. And there's the law of one way of looking at it, and there's the Books of Seth way of looking at it, and there's the Voyager's way of looking at it. Anyway, there's various different models of how to look at the nature of reality. I don't know which one is correct, but the Arcturians are said to be from the fifth dimension. So look at it from that way. And it's interesting because the fifth dimension is the level that Gaia, the Earth, is said to be transitioning into, which is a much more enlightened, better place, higher vibes. People are happier. It's it's paradise. It's heaven on earth. You still have kind of a physical body, but it may be less dense. Yeah, sounds nice. Let's do it. Let's do the fifth dimension. Many people think that's why the beings are here, to assist us in ascending to the fifth dimension. I think that's awesome. I hope that's true. I think some of them probably are here for that, if that is a real thing. And it seems to be. It seems to be. There are some negative beings. I have a friend who doesn't like me using the word negative beings. She says, don't paint them as negative. There's not light and dark. It's, all shades of gray or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you don't want to call them negative. We'll call them uncool. There's some cool beings and there's some uncool beings. Those uncool beings haven't watched enough Fonzie. They just don't know the deal. They don't know how to be cool. They're all running around being demonic or negative or attaching themselves to people. They just haven't watched enough Happy Days. That's my theory. Anyway, I've been going for about an hour. I'm happy to go longer if anybody has any questions or wants to go over anything in particular. Before I leave, I did want to say one thing, that to differentiate the metallic spherical orbs like the MOSUL orb from the paranormal spiritual orbs, because orb is a term that I used a lot when I was ghost hunting. And we would see orbs all the time, but they were a very different kind of orb. They were the spiritual kind of orb. And when I say see them, I never saw one with my naked eye, but we would see them with cameras. And the main haunted house that we looked at, that we investigated for over 6 months, maybe closer to a year, they had sophisticated security system, and there were some really fantastic orbs that they captured on the security system, along with shadow beings and crazy lights, and it was just a fantastically haunted house. I wouldn't have wanted to live there, and I feel very sorry for the people that did live there. They had numerous house clearings, but nothing can get rid of it. Anyway, but I just wanted to point out that there is a different kind of orb, the one that I had been used to, and had in when I used to use the word orb. That's what I meant. Was these ghostly spiritual orbs. Bigfoot often, or not often, but numerous times, people have seen an orb, like in the forest. They've been out hunting and they see an orb, and then Bigfoot pops out of it, or an alien or whatever. Aliens have been seen coming from orbs and disappearing into orbs. When people have near-death experiences and go to other realms, sometimes they become orbs. So there is a different meaning to the word orb that has more of a spiritual or metaphysical connotation. And they appear to be, I say appear because we don't really know, but they appear to be vehicles that spirits use, or maybe it's just their naked soul expressing itself in that way. But they do often seem to be vehicles that people use, or the beings use, to get from dimension to dimension or from place to place. That's why Bigfoot will materialize out of an orb. The thinking goes. I mean, who knows? When I get to sit down with a Bigfoot, I'll ask him. That'd be cool. I'd love to meet a Bigfoot. We were actually, my ghost hunting group was actually set to go squatching. That was like our next project when it broke up recently. Yeah, we just weren't doing enough. We kind of got COVID out. We stopped doing a lot of ghost hunting because of COVID, and just kind of the momentum just kind of died on our ghost hunting, sadly. Shogun Order says maybe the black orbs absorbing all light around it. That's how they refuel, maybe. Totally possible, man. Absolutely. They could be drawing in fuel to power themselves. Again, that reminds me of the paranormal stuff, because the ghost and the paranormal stuff, sometimes they seem to power themselves with electricity, which is really weird. But I have on those security cameras that I was talking about, with these shadow beings. The shadow beings would walk through the door frame, triggering the motion, the motion activated security camera. And they would walk through the door frame into the door, and the light in that room would suddenly turn off. And then after a few seconds, it would turn back on, as if the being had to draw power from that light in order to manifest. Maybe that's not why the light went off. Maybe it disturbed the light or the electrical signature, electromagnetic signature, whatever. Because that is another thing that you see a lot with experiencers and contactees, people who have been abducted. When they, start having their experiences, oftentimes, if they started when they were an adult, sometimes this is lifelong. Often it's lifelong. But they will be, electrical equipment will be very sensitive to them. They will kill their phone. They will kill computers. Stuff will act very funky in their presence. And the same is true of near-death experiencers. Many near-death experiencers, when they come back from their experience, they've died, they've been beyond the veil, and they've come back. Well, when they come back, oftentimes they will have that same buggy electrical situation. Phones, computers, etc., will simply die in their presence. So could that be why the shadow beings caused the light to go off? They weren't drawing power from it, but they were just interfering with it. Totally possible. But I'm just saying there is a metaphysical precursor for these things drawing energy, from light or whatever. Anyway, does anybody else have any more comments or questions? I don't mind hanging out longer if anybody has anything else to say. That's all the material I had to go over. But okay, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining me. This has been Jack with Cosmic Road. Please hit like, a big thumbs up. That'd be awesome. Please subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Please consider becoming a channel member to support the channel. There's 2 tiers, and that'd be awesome. That'd be amazing. Or you can simply leave a super thanks or super chat. Let's see. Anything else? Buy one of my books. Yeah, you can go buy one of my books. I'm a novelist. Those are some of my books. There's a link in the description. All right. Fantasy and science fiction books. And anything else? I think that's about it, guys. But thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. You guys have been awesome. And I will see you next time.